Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our last night of our series of Q&A with the Pontiac mayoral candidates, brought to you by Pontiac United. We want to apologize for starting late tonight. We did have technical difficulties, but we are right on schedule now. We want to let you know that Pontiac United does not endorse any of the candidates, and the questions read tonight were submitted by you, the citizens. I'm Ariel Gardner, a member of Pontiac United and a resident of Pontiac all of my life. I currently also work in the city of Pontiac. And we also have Demar tonight.
Yes, I'm Demar Bias, lifelong Pontiac resident, former City of Pontiac employee, former City Council candidate. So I just represent the public at large in asking these questions tonight. We wanted to make sure we have an informed citizenship for this year's upcoming election. Mayor position is a very important position, so we just want to make sure everyone is educated on the voting process and what each candidate stands for. Tonight we have our current mayor, Deirdre Waterman, and we will turn it over to you to introduce yourself before we start any questions.
Well, good evening, everyone, and it's good to see you again, Damar. As you mentioned that you were a political candidate before, and I hope that's still in your future. We'd like to have young, energetic, and well-intentioned people to be leaders of the community. So I'm glad you're staying involved in the area. Glad that you are here and that you're offering this opportunity to our citizens to be involved in this process for this very important position that has been my pleasure and my privilege and honor to serve other citizens of Pontiac. And I do consider this a service occupation to be a mayor. And that's what I convey to all my staff. We're here to take our part and to leadership, to fulfill the wish of the people, to have a community that is safe, secure, uh, and has all the attributes and services that they want to live in a community, a good place to live, work, and play. And so that's what we have set our strategies for, and our workforce and all the staff that I pick are dedicated to those purposes. And glad to see we have some hardworking people. And it has been an honor, as I said, to serve for the second term now. And we have achieved a lot together. And so my appeal to the citizens is to look back to see where we have come from under the leadership I have done as we have worked together. There are so many groups who have been part of this progress of the city of Pontiac, and I want to continue that, whether it be in making us a safer place to live, reducing the crime rate, and also enhancing all our other services in the city, making sure that we have all the services that are uh, quality and professional for our citizens of Pontiac. That's what I want. I've been a resident here for 50 years now. Have grown children, have children who have grown up in this community, and we're proud of that. And we're proud of the legacy that we have as Waterman family in the city of Pontiac. We want to continue that on. We feel a great pride in being a part of this community, and we want to continue that if the citizens so desire to continue to serve and continue the progress.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Mayor. Let us get started with one of our first questions on tonight. And as you guys already know, a lot of these questions were asked previously. So the first question is, what is your specific plan on job creation in the city?
Okay. Our specific plan is to continue to build upon jobs. And as you know from the history, that we have a lot of the things I'm talking about are not just promises of what wishful thinking, but I actually have a proven track record to show. We have brought so many jobs to the city of Pontiac, and I can cite some of the ones that people note as the biggest opportunities for jobs. And that's right now. For example, we have brought in new industries to the city, and we have Amazon coming. That was a great coup to get Amazon to the city of Pontiac. And many of you have seen the building that's going over there at the Silverdome site, what was formerly the Silverdome site. For example, they opened the distribution center already and have deliveries going from there. And they're about to open in the end of July the big fulfillment center, and they're going to be bringing 2,500 jobs just from that. And they've already started hiring so many Pontiac people for those jobs, and will continue to hire more. And 2,500 is the minimum jobs that they will bring, that they promised us. They will probably bring more as they open the big fulfillment center. Not to mention all the other businesses that have now come back to Pontiac, because we have made this a more attractive place for people to do business. They see the consistency in leadership, the consistency in the lack of red tape to bring business to the city, and the way that we have supported with integrity. And it's no more pay for play. We come here and we have the same rules and the same services to all of the businesses that come. And we particularly have had some challenges to support the businesses during the COVID-19. We have been very uh, uh, quick to give out the grants that, as the state and the federal government have sent money to us. And so we want to support the businesses who have had challenges, as many of us had during this COVID-19 pandemic year. This has been a most unusual year, which is we've had to employ many methods to face the challenges, not only to keep people healthy, get them vaccinated, have our bring our vaccination centers to town, but also make sure that we're ready to go back to normal life as we have increased the vaccination rates. But we do have a jobs pipeline, and that's something I created so that with all the businesses that are coming to town that are looking for Pontiac people to work, and residents, not only Pontiac residents to work for jobs, but also for businesses. We did carve out for certain businesses and development agreements I set with some of the new businesses. For example, the what they call Village at Bloomfield over there on Telegraph, that sat vacant for 9 years. Remember, it was hardly built. Well, when I was able to come and get that project started again, I signed a development agreement, the first ever for the city. And I said, as part of the development for us giving you incentives to come, I wanted to have carve outs for jobs for our city. So there was $2 million worth of jobs and job training that were part of completing that process. And that's what I brought to the city. But on the website, we have listed all the new businesses that are coming that have jobs that they want Pontiac residents to fulfill. And as I said, 2,500 for United Shore, 2,500 for Amazon, just for the biggest ones at United Shore, which is, some of us have noticed, on South Boulevard. They came here with 2,500 employees and now are hiring 150 people a week. And in fact, we've had some business town halls and job fairs just to acquaint people with the jobs that are here. So we're just continuing that progress, continue that step. The jobs pipeline is something we have on our website that people can go on there and see the kinds of jobs that are available here. We also are fostering job training. I just was at a graduation ceremony for 6 young people yesterday, in which we are partnering with an organization called TDF that gives out training in construction trades to our young people. So there are 6 people who had careers that will be started, will be ready for apprenticeships by the fact that they went through this training. And we're partnering with a lot of other organizations to bring training to the city of Pontiac and to opportunities that expand for all their citizens, whatever category they're in or whatever their industry or their trade.
Okay, Mary. As Ariel mentioned, these questions, some of these questions have been asked to every candidate, and so the next question is kind of twofold for you. Being a current mayor and going into a new administration, if you are reelected, there will be a lot of new faces. So it's been a history of lack of cooperation between mayor and council. So the question is, how do you plan to create a cooperative environment between mayor and council going forward?
Well, one of the things that I was wanted to make certain of as I became mayor was, I know that there had been a history of very strained, tempestuous relationships since we've had a strong mayor form of government. And some of that was really quite embarrassing to me. And so I came in and I said, I won't participate in that kind of behavior. That I think, and that's one of the things that people credit me for, is that when I came in, I said, I'm here to do a job for the service of the people, and I want to do a job in such a way that the people will have pride in that. So I have maintained a professional and courteous atmosphere, even though some things get directed at me. but I do that and I demand that of my staff as well, that they be businesslike in what they do, and that they deal with the facts and not with slurs and things like that that were inundating our TV channels in previous years. And that was something that embarrassed me. And certainly that was one of the things that we have changed the tone of that. I remember the mayor before there was name calling and all kinds of things. It was very embarrassing for the city. And I understood why businesses were shying away from the city of Pontiac. As you see now, we've changed somewhat the tone of that. Can get better. I wanted to get better. I think, but I have to be myself to follow the rules I set and help to set the tone if others are going to do that as well. But there's ways in which we have to understand that we have to work together. We're all here for the betterment of the people, and that's what I do. Try to keep my eye on the prize. Not perfect in that, and so catch myself sometimes too. But by and large, I know what I'm here to do, and I try to work with the facts. And we can disagree. We're not clones of each other, but we need to learn to be even though we disagree on certain facts, we don't have to be disagreeable. And I try to remind myself of that because I have to do it myself in order to expect that of others. Um, but we do have to remind ourselves that we are responsible for our citizens. They're not paying us to run a sideshow. They're paying us to get things done for them. And that's what I keep in mind as I do that. One of the things we're proud of is that we've brought in so many different people who have been cooperative and collaborative. We built partnerships. We have all kinds of groups that are working together collaboratively. And so that's the tone I've tried to set from the very first times when we had the large groups that gathered to talk about the strategic plan, the vision we had for the city, to the fact that we meet with various groups around the city, meet with all the neighborhood groups when they were meeting regularly, to try to make sure that we are fostering that sense of giving people information, allowing them to work together to work through on their problems. I have several groups we've scheduled to meet with about issues they're having in the community. So I make myself available to do that and try to solve problems and to work together. And that's what I try to keep in mind. We can always get better at it. I know I can. And so that's what we keep in mind and hope that we can continue to build and foster those relationships that will be productive for the citizens.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Mayor. This question has came up a lot. This is coming from Stanya in District 1. What are your plans to restrict access to our neighborhoods from the M1 participants who are currently allowed to block our streets, driveways, and park on our lawns?
Okay.
If we were in West Bloomfield, Waterford, or Auburn Hills, it would not be allowed.
Okay. So M1 is the south area of the city near the Woodward corridor. So there are code violations and traffic violations for blocking anybody's driveway. So that is something that should be enforced. And of course, the sheriff deputies do have ordinances they follow to do that. So nobody should be allowed to do a code violation, and that's our um, standard in the city. So if that is done, they should be ticketed or towed away. They can infringe upon homeowners' rights in that regard. So that's first. Now, there's a number of events that happen around the M1 corridor, and we've tried to work with the surrounding citizens and neighborhoods. We've had neighborhood groups as those events came up, and over the couple of years when we've had some of those major events, we were able to work out an arrangement with the input of all the citizens, and we've had meetings at a couple of the churches there beforehand, and to be able to make sure that the homeowners' rights were cared for and were observed as we had these events coming. Pontiac is now becoming more a city in which people have begun to realize that we are quite a jewel here. And so we're going to have some events that are coming. And so part of that is we're planning now how to make that easy access for our residents who have rights to make sure that they are safe and secure and can access their property. So that's a very important part of me. We're going to plan that. We've already started working out the plans for that. And on the other hand, we want to make sure that we're happy for the fact that they've recognized Pontiac as a place which used to be shunned. And now we actually have people who are bringing world-class events to the city of Pontiac. Many of you have heard that what has generally been the show that was in Detroit, the North American International Auto Show, is now coming to Pontiac, called Motorbella. So that's a great plum and recognition of the city of Pontiac, how much we have changed and grown, that now people are picking our city to be a showcase for these kinds of events.
Mayor, I think that the question more so was just how to restrict the access. We've gotten this question a lot. It seems like a lot of people are upset that they are able to come into their neighborhoods and the police officers are not enforcing the rules that, you can't just park on someone's lot.
Yeah. Well, police officers should enforce the rules. All right. So to the extent that that is brought to our attention, we work with the police department, the sheriff department rather, to make sure that they are enforcing that. So when there were times with that, we talked with the sheriff's office to make sure that they were doing that. If for anybody who has had problems with that, that's something. If they can't get the right um, response from the sheriff department, then they let my office know. Okay. And then we deal with that and make sure the sheriff knows that people have to maintain their rights. Um, so in case of private lots, there may be um, some people who are frequent users of that. Once you find out, we find a way to help the owner secure their private lot. But that is something that we don't take for granted, and we realize the rights of the owner to have safe access to their particular property. And it is my intention in the office to be able to secure that. All right.
Okay, Mayor. We started out speaking about business development and just want to know what would be a plan to work with the school district? We know it's two different entities, but in order to make sure that we have a strong and solid school district that will enhance business recruitment.
So many different ways that we have interacted with our school district. My history into politics was through education literacy. My first elected office was to be chairman of the library board because it was such a passion of mine that we make sure that we have educational opportunities for our children. And as anybody who knows my history and the history of my family, my husband, Waterman name in Pontiac, was that was through my husband and the Casey tribe were quite instrumental in making sure that we had equity opportunities for children in our school district. And that was a famous case that was decided that affected the lives of all the school children in Pontiac, because we know that children should have the right to equity opportunities and education. So that's continued in the many ways we support this school district, both as a private citizen. We have continuously been involved in the enrichment activities and the support activities for building our school district into a better school district. But in addition, as a mayor, I've often said that the success and growth of Pontiac is somewhat hooked to the success and growth of our school system. And so the superintendent and I have also always called ourselves partners because Pontiac's growth is dependent on having a good school system as well. As the many businesses and visitors to the city have come and have surveyed Pontiac as the place to come, there are two things they ask me. Number one, of most important, number one, how safe is the city? Okay, so I have to quote the fact that we've worked to reduce crime statistics. The second question is, how good is the school system? And I'm very proud to say that we've had a consistent board now and a superintendent who is intent on improving the quality of education in our school system. We have a number of quality charter schools as well to give opportunities to our children. But that's a very important fact to be able to offer educational opportunities for our youth. And we also have augmented that, added to that, by the fact that one of the things that, as I ran for mayor the first time, I was very dismayed that all the youth centers had been closed in the city of Pontiac by the emergency manager. And one of the things that I put on my literature that I can check off the box now was I wanted to make sure that we had the youth recreation and enrichment opportunities restored again for our youth of Pontiac. And remember, together we passed that millage back in 2018, and that millage said that we would restore those youth activities free of charge, and they're offered to any youth under the age of 21. Plus, we also had the hope to restore one of those centers. And we did restore the center. We tried a couple different sites and partnered with some churches and other entities for a while, but we did restore a youth center. And as we're looking at the site now for the coming times, one of the things that we recently announced is that United Shore, which has that big, which purchased that big Ultimate Soccer arena, they now announced that they're using $10 million to turn it into a sports complex and a community center. So we've just begun talks with them. They just announced this last week, but I have begun talks with them and saying how that can overlap and having our youth, as well as our other citizens, avail themselves of these wonderful facilities. They're planning to put 8 basketball courts there, and they have soccer courts. So those are things that uh, make a Pontiac an attractive place for our citizens, and is quite a great opportunity. So we're excited about that, as well as the other kind of enrichment programs we offer our students through the millage that they passed, that we are very overjoyed about, and is one of the things that I have quite a passion about. So the youth center, we have so many partnerships, and that helps enrichment activities that help to give them added benefit to the education they get in the city of Pontiac. But in addition to that, we are now have a strong relationship with Oakland University, for example, and OCC in terms of offering other programs to our students. And we started a partnership 6 years ago, and now they have brought so many uh, uh, ancillary programs to our students, um, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And we continue to grow the opportunities to our students, including as part of the program this year. We're going to be able to offer summer jobs as well, which is a good opportunity because we're going to have junior camp counselors for some of our outdoor activities, including the Murphy Day Camp, which is a tradition associated with our youth program. In addition to the fact that I was just talking to a group now, we're going to partner with Community Foundation, Jose Ibarra. They're going to be offering a lot of street programs, just street enrichment to block off the street for certain hours and allow children in their neighborhoods to participate in group activities. So there's all these kind of opportunities that we're offering to our youth. We continue to grow, and we do that in partnership with so many different organizations that feel as I do and have a passion for the education and the enhancement of opportunities for our youth.
Mayor, now we do have a lot of questions, so if you can keep your answers just to a minimum, I do apologize. We want to try to get as many questions in as we can. So this question, they would like to remain anonymous, but it says, I work at the 50th District Court where the carpet was taped together with duct tape for weeks. The phone cords are bad and the cubicles are falling apart. We currently do not have an HR because we are worked hard but not paid enough. What are your plans to provide more funding for the court and the rest of the city official buildings?
Yes. So, as you know, I have a great um, attachment to the court. My husband was a judge. In fact, the name the courthouse, which was renamed in his honor because he was a lover of justice and because he was such a champion for the citizen and their rights. So after he died, by vote of the unanimous vote of the city council and by petitions from the citizens, they voted to rename that. And if you go there, you will see the name of that 50th District Courthouse is Honorable William J. Waterman Hall of Justice. All right. So, I have a great admiration for those who love the law and for the courthouse because that brings back a lot of memories of the things our family and my husband stood for in this community. So, yes, and the courthouse had problems when it was built. I remember my husband, when it was even new, complained about the way the HVAC system was put in. So it has been a a continuing source of challenge to make sure that that building stays usable in various ways. So the city does invest in that. In fact, that's one of the entities that sets their own budget, and the city spends to support the courthouse and the activities there. When I first became mayor, it was about $800,000 a year. This year and last year, it'll be closer to 1.4, $1.6 million. And so, it's an aging building. It requires constant maintenance. We did replace the carpeting in certain areas, and we have enhanced since I've been mayor just in the last year. We brought in all new printers and phone system, and it's going to require, as any facility, continuous care and upkeep. So we are continuing to do that, not only for that building, for all the buildings. But I'm also happy to say, and during this pandemic, we've had to make sure that we watch our dollars and have still very sound financial planning. So many communities have had a lot of setback because they have had their revenue reduced and have had to cut back. I haven't had to cut back. I'm very happy to say that I planned very carefully, and so I didn't have to cut off one employee. I put them to work doing other things and other jobs, but we didn't have to lay anybody off, and I'm happy for that. And supported our citizens. But the union that controls the collective bargaining agreement does decide the wages for a good deal of the court employees. So that bargaining arrangement agreement is under negotiation right now. And I know that the last time it was negotiated, there was a raise for the employees there. But that is a union collective bargaining arrangement that determines the salaries for most of the workers there. And so the city does support that. Because I am so keen about the need for justice in our community and for people who have access to equal justice is very important. So we continue to support the efforts of the judges to maintain adequate coverage in the courthouse, and that is very much a written part of the budget that I have. Uh, and there's some money that's coming to the city through the American Rescue Act, and in fact, originally we were scheduled to get only $5.8 million just last week after we fought and went back to our legislators and say that's not enough for Pontiac. And I'm happy to say that paid off because they announced last week it wasn't just going to be 5.8. They heeded our efforts and the people that I got to say champion Pontiac's cause, and we're going to get 37.7 million. So that is going to be money that we have available to do some of the long projects that we might not have been able to afford, uh, just with our regular budget. So one of the ways I'm going to encourage council to spend that money is I've decided that this is a citizens' money, and we are going to arrange to have district meetings. Want to have one in each district, so we can go and listen to people's ideas about how that $30.7 million can be expended. And there's a lot of major projects here. The courthouse, other facilities, our streets and roads, infrastructure, smart city initiatives, lots of things. And I want the citizens to have a say because I believe in listening to the citizens and what they best want. That's a nice windfall of money. And so I want to share that and share those ideas that we take recommendations to council for how we spend that money. The courthouse may be one of the ways that we find that we want to support the facilities there. So, and I appreciate all the good work that all our employees at the courthouse do. The law, as I said, is a very important part of our legacy in Pontiac, and I believe in equal rights under the law. And we all have been experiencing now a lot of conversation and championing the fact that social justice has become a key issue, and I am quite a proponent of that all my life. So I'm glad to see that that is being followed, and we're having that conversation in many circles in our own community, and we adhere to that.
Okay, Mayor, you previously spoke about the youth millage. So this question is about the current state of the youth millage. If you want to explain that, as well as Hayes Jones, which is right now, the Western Tennis Courts. They said the city is up for sale. Has the city considered purchasing back and turning into a community center? And this came from Lewis in District 1.
Right. So yes, there were four community centers that, as I said, were sold off or closed by the emergency manager, and the Hayes Jones is now had been purchased by an owner who the original purchaser did turn it into the Western Lawn Tennis Club. As the owner, maybe 2 years ago, had decided that he had taken another job out of state and had came to me and said, "Hey, look, would the city be interested in purchasing the Haynes Jones Center back?" And I knew that it had such nostalgic value for our population that I actually went and said, "Can I have an event there to show the citizens how nice this is?" It had an active swimming pool, and they had done a lot of work on the greens. And so at that time, the price was $2.1 million. So I actually had a white party for our seniors because I thought that might be a perfect place if they wanted it uh, to um, to replace one of our older centers. So we went there, and afterwards we took a poll, and I took the resolution to council to see if they were interested. But at that time, there was no support for buying the Hayes Jones Center. Although I would have been lovely, it was beautiful, and I did make it available, but it was not. There was not the vote to purchase that particular Hayes Jones Center at the time. So likewise, the Ewalt Center, which has been vacant for a long time, and we're looking at that, and that may be one of the projects that we can do to revive that Ewald Center, which is in District 5. It is in a really terrible condition right now and would take several $1 million, but I've already done a feasibility study, and along with council's wishes, to see what it would take to bring that Ewald Center back to code and maybe develop it into a community center. But as we have put in our wish for appropriations to our federal legislators, that was one of the projects I submitted for consideration. And I think we had about 6 or 7 projects that we submitted for consideration for money from the federal government. So we're waiting to hear. I understand that they're going to be making a decision in the next 2 weeks. So we'll see if the Ewalt Center was one of the projects that they're willing to give us money for from the federal government. And if not, there's always that 37.7 million. And we're going to go out and ask the citizens what is most important and a priority for that. So that's the status of some of our community centers, in addition to the fact that we have a group that are gathering together to see what happens with our site for our youth. And of course, we still run the 2 senior centers, both the Bowen Center and the Ruth Peterson Center, and have increased the activities and have made sure that our senior citizens were the very vulnerable population were the ones who had a vaccination site. We actually opened up the Bowen Center so our seniors could get the vaccines, and we could rest more safely as they were the most vulnerable population and needed to be and the ones most affected from this COVID disease. So we're going to be starting to open up for regular activities again as we're opening up the rest of our facilities post-COVID.
Okay, we do have some questions from our live stream. We have Sean Preston wants to know, what are your plans to lower Pontiac's 30% poverty rate?
Yes. So, Sean, that is a multi-purpose question. Poverty is not a silver bullet item, but poverty is something that we are continually work on, and we're working on with multiple groups. All right. Poverty is related to education, to opportunity, to support for people who have disastrous circumstances, for people who need a second chance, for people who have disabilities of any sort. So there are many things that we do to lift the poverty rate. One of the things we're doing is we now have supports for our people, and this pandemic has been one of the ones which has been revealed these economic injustice schisms in our society even more. So, number one, we had to make sure that people did not suffer food uh, loss. And so there was so much money that came into town that nobody during the pandemic was without a resource to get food. And we did have food giveaways at our senior centers every Monday. And we also partnered with Meals on Wheels. So we had uh, a total now probably close to 300,000 meals that we gave away, as well as other organizations we partner with to make sure that people had food. So also we make sure that we are supporting people who are need to have economic um, supports. For example, during the pandemic, a lot of people fell behind in their rent and mortgage payments and in their utility payments. So that was one of the things that as we got the money from the CARES Act, we dedicated all of that, all 950 some dollars to that, to join the consortium so that people who were in danger of being evicted because of loss of rent were able to get grants to catch up on that. So we know people who fall into poverty often do so because of some drastic circumstances. Education is important because education offers more opportunities. That's why we're doing all the things we can to make sure education is opportunity and at all ages, not only for our young people during their grade school years, but also to give them scholarships. And I have a number of organizations that I work with that give scholarships to enable people to afford a post secondary education. But also, we work with people in terms of jobs and job trainings to accelerate to improve their opportunities in life to have better paying jobs. One of the things that we've done in Pontiac, as I said, is to offer jobs, to open up job opportunities, and to give support to families in various ways. Just having the youth center uh, was an opportunity for particularly essential workers who didn't have the opportunity to stay home and work remotely to be able to have a safe place to put their children and safeguard them. So we did that throughout the pandemic. We had to close the youth centers as all cities did at the very height of the beginning of the pandemic. But other than that, we opened it up and have had a very successful way of having childcare while we had the youth center. So we're also with this $37.7 million that we're getting from the American Rescue Plan. One of the guidelines is that we can do things that benefit citizens in their homes. So not only that, but we have through our CDBG, we've invested money in offering yard services and chore skill sets for those in their homes. And that is all supported by the federal grant money that we receive. So, as we said, poverty is something that has haunted communities, and one of the goals is to lift the poverty rate, and we've done that in ways that we can do through initiatives through the city government itself, but also in partnership. In the last 3 years, we have now invited in the foundation community, which has come in, and they are available now to offer support for various foundations and various other nonprofit organizations to help to make sure that people are safe in their homes and have safe environments and have more equitable ways of living and lifting themselves from poverty and having opportunity for themselves and for their children.
Okay, Mary. Two issues that have come about into for each candidate as we went through this session is the current litigation with the Phoenix Center, as well as the expiring contract with the Waterford Fire Department. And we asked each person where do they stand on that issue.
All right, so the Waterford Fire Department. So the fire department is something that was regionalized under the emergency manager. And as I took office, people were asking me, when can we get our fire department back? And I said that each year we would do a feasibility study. Well, not every year, but periodically we've done a feasibility study to see if the cost benefit ratio, and that was the cost of doing it, and the benefits of doing it, were better maintaining the fire department, or would give citizens better services. So as we've done that last time, we realized that it would be so costly to replicate what we're getting through this regional that it would break our budget. And we also followed to see if the services we were getting with the fire department were adequate. And we've done performance evaluations every year to make sure that we were getting great service and to see that it is at a cost that the city, the taxpayers, could afford. So we going to reevaluate it each time, and we decide the priorities and how we spend our money. Right now, the priorities were not to replace all those trucks, which are uh, are quite a sum of money. But right now, a lot of communities are doing a regional approach, and as we said for this coming budget, we also suggested that we stay with the regional approach, but the um, negotiations are coming up in the next 6 months or so. So at that time, we will reevaluate again, do a feasibility, and see if it's a cost we can afford to bring in some of those services and handle them ourselves, or is it still more cost effective for citizens to get better services by doing the regional approach? So as I said, we've done that evaluation periodically, and it'll be coming up again as we do this fire service. And I'm not going to prejudge until I look at the figures. And but so far we've been following the um, the results and the statistics, and we're happy with the quick response people get when they have fires, and we're happy with the fact that the fire department has worked effectively and efficiently to save lives and save property and keep us safer. The other question was the Phoenix Center. And yes, that was something that was left. I inherited from the emergency manager. The emergency manager, and this is such a long story and long saga for the people, but many people remember when the emergency manager said that we should demolish the Phoenix Center, and or the other option was that we should just give the Phoenix Center away to the owners of the towers for $1. So that was a situation when I came here. And when I came, I said that would be a disservice to the citizens of Pontiac if they ended up having to lose that court battle that the emergency manager started and had to pay some judgment. And at one time, the estimate of the judgment might be for $30 million. So it was a part of a great goal and challenge for me to solve that litigation to get us out of court. And we've gone through mediation, several mediators, but I was able to now come up with a solution that meant that we did not lose that property, like we lost the Silverdome and so many of the water treatment plant and other properties under the emergency manager, but that the city maintains ownership of that, and that we won't have to pay for the repairs that would have been very devastating for the city to pay. Uh, Over the years, it accumulated to a figure of about $18 million to get that back to the standard of what we can utilize it again. So we saved that property. We did not lose it. And we have found a way to bring in partners, equity partners, who are now going to be responsible for doing the repairs. So it won't be on the backs of the taxpayers, but yet we get to maintain the ownership. And many people remember the festivals and the events on the top of the amphitheater, which was constructed with taxpayer dollars. And that is now going to be, again, a possibility. I think in the next couple months, we closed the deal a couple months ago, and so in the next couple months, you're going to see some activity on that Phoenix Center. I'm not going to reveal any opening dates right now, but you're going to see the fact that it's been sitting there quiet, unused for all these years. We have brought it back from that disuse, and you're going to see, I think, the fact that it's a proud accomplishment and victory for the city that we were able to keep that. And again, in the not too distant future, be able to again have the festivals and maybe even some other kind of visionary ideas. Even the equity partners have talked about maybe putting a new library there for the city. So those talks are ongoing, and you'll hear more about that as we develop those thoughts for the citizens.
Speaking of the library, we have a question from Brittany in District 6. She says, what are your intentions to support the library board to advance and renovate the library so that children and elderly can have safe and proper access to resources? And how will
Yes.
you eliminate the number of homeless people that threaten that access and are allowed to use the computers inappropriately?
Yes. Well, it's necessary for everybody to have the enjoyment that there should be appropriate usage, and that's the responsibility of the administration, the library board, to make sure those behavior policies get followed. Uh, as you mentioned the library question, I have quite a great history with the library. Uh, and in fact, that was my entry into politics. I was part of a group when the library, back in 2006 and 7, it was just a haven for vagrants, and none of our children would go there. It wasn't safe. All the books, the collections were old. And so when the city was facing financial crisis before the emergency manager, the one of the former mayors said they were going to close the library, and I said that was terrible. We needed a library because our children and our youth and our students and everybody else came to the library to use the computers, and they would not be able to access any of the libraries in the other communities because they wouldn't have cross city privileges, loaning privileges, if our library was closed and we weren't part of that complex. So if you think back, those of you remember, I kind of led the group that went out there and said to the people, if the city can't afford it, let's pass a millage and save the library. And I worked a whole summer just going out talking to groups, and people did pass the millage because they, like me, wanted the library saved. So I worked with a group to raise the money to build a whole new children's reading room in the library, $12,000, and restore that. And as we passed the millage, then the council appointed me as the first chair of the library board, and it was under that library board that we established the principles of how the library should be used. We got rid of a lot of the old books and brought in new collections. We restored some of the new initiatives. I started the thought of that newsletter, that the newsletter that people get now, delivered to all our homeowners. That started when I was chairman of the library board, and I was that for 2 terms. And we were very proud that we took it from being a seedy, um, you know, home for people who slept at the library and weren't very careful with the collections, to something that we see now. So the board that serves there, and the citizens appoint that board, and I hope you continue to appoint to elect people who will continue the progress of that library to make sure it continues to offer other kinds of activities for people of all ages, and continues to make sure that we keep our book collection up to date as well as offer other services. And as I said, one of the things that we started a committee to look at when I was chair was whether we could get a new home for the library. And so that after I was no longer chair, the next board inherited that. But as you hear now, as we have the Phoenix Center and talk about the people who are bringing um, dollars to the city of Pontiac for investment, that the talks are again for something that was a secret passion of mine to see if we could bring a new library to the city of Pontiac. So those thoughts are again in the works. So stay tuned.
Okay, Mayor, now we have a question that has come in multiple times, so we have to ask it and just give you an opportunity to explain it. So the question is, will you be on the ballot or will you be a write-in candidate? So
Yeah.
we'll give you an opportunity to explain it.
So yes. So the uh, I won't try to go through all the details of that, but in Pontiac we have an election commission which looks at the applications of all of the uh, uh, people who apply to be on the ballot for whatever office. And in my instance, uh, as we had paid some campaign fines, and before uh, the petitions were due, I got all my petitions in, got that signed, got all the paperwork in time, and then after that, uh, the election commission, which looks at all the petitions and all the filings that all the candidates put in, they did look at mine and say that I had met the qualifications and that they voted that I should be on the ballot. So cities determined who was going to be on their ballots. And so as of now, that's the ruling of the election commission, and I'm happy for that. But as they looked at some other candidates, they realized that there were some other candidates who had other filings that weren't complete, and so that was the work of the election commission to determine whether or not they were going to be on the ballot. But for my opinion, the election process, the democracy, should be left to the citizens to decide who they want to vote for. So I have always paid all my, if I had overdue fees, I paid those so I can be chartered to be on the ballot. And I'm happy that the election commission did support that. So as it stands right now, yeah, I expect and truly decide if to be on the ballot so people can see my name. But I was prepared either way, even if that hadn't been the way of the election commission, to wage a write-in campaign because there's enough people who support my candidacy and who want to continue the progress. And so we're willing to say, stay the course because we like what you have brought to Pontiac. You have been a proven leader. A lot of others come in and promise things, but they say you have actually delivered. Everything that I told the citizens I would do, I have done, and they want to continue that progress and not have it stop and start with a learning curve because we're at a very critical point of that progress to continue it. And I want to do that for the citizens of Pontiac if they so elect me.
Okay, we do have a question from our live stream. This has come from Darcy M. It says, the president lives in Washington, D.C. and not in another district. In your opinion, should a mayor live in the city they govern, or do you think that matters?
Well, it's not just my opinion, it's the charter of the city. The charter, of course, as you know, is the Bible, is equivalent to the Bible of the city. And that's what the voters and what the residents of the city put down as the rule they want to live by. And our charter does say that elected officials must be residents of the city. And that's not unusual. In most cities that we can think of, that you do have to be a resident to serve the taxpayers of that particular area. So, as I've said, I've been a resident of Pontiac for 50 years, uh, 50 plus years, as a matter of fact, very proudly so. Um, I've lived in the same home for most of those years and lived here long enough that practically everybody knows where I live between mine and my husband. They know we are proud members of this community. supporters of our community, have been builders, proud to raise their children here, proud of the fact that we've been able to contribute to the successes and the reputation of our city. So yes, it's not just an opinion, it's the law. I certainly know that we must heed what the taxpayers and the residents have, is that they want the people they elect to live amongst them, so they experience the same things that they experience. And so they have a stake in making sure that the community is as good as it can be. And they are here to make it a good place to live, work, and play. And that's what I take as my mantra too, as the mayor. And I'm happy to live in a proud community, and I'm happy to contribute to the success of the city.
We have another question from Sean Preston. Are you working to bring CDBG funding back to Pontiac?
Absolutely. That's a very timely question, Sean, because that was another thing that I was able to restore after the emergency manager. The emergency manager was he terminated so many things in the city, really cut a lot of things down. And one of my things as mayor is I've had to rebuild the city again. When I got in, the emergency manager left us in a terrible deficit the first year. They brought me said we're $30 million in deficit because of the retiree health litigation. And so over the years, I was able to restore the city's balances, and now we have a surplus. And as we're doing the budget now, but the question was, read that to me again so I can make sure I'm answering it the way Sean Preston put it to it.
Are you working to bring the CBDB
Okay.
funding back to Pontiac?
Yeah. He's talking specifically about the CDBG funding, which is the federal grant money. Certain cities are entitled to federal grant money that are entitled cities. Pontiac is what they call entitlement city, and I won't go into what that means. But we do get funds here from the federal government that we can use for certain purposes. It's under the HUD agency. It's part of the whole home fund allotment. So under the emergency manager, as I started to say, that the emergency manager was going to send that money back to Washington D.C. because he had fired all the employees who were running the department, the grants department. So luckily, we had one of the senators who was able to save that. And he said that, well, if the city can't administer it and doesn't have the staff, then I'll ask the county to. And the county said, okay, we'll do it. But they're charging us a 20% administration fee. So as I came into the city of Pontiac, one of the things I was rebuilding government. I had 28 employees. The city at its prime, it had 500 employees. So as we have gained more financial stability, I've added and insourced more departments. And one of those departments that we're talking about insourcing right now is the whole federal grants and the grants department in general. And as a matter of fact, as I have gone out and championed resources for the city, one of the things I've been able to win is a $100,000 grant that a certain foundation gave the city. And that grant was so that we could get consultants to help to restart our grant department. And we've gone so far that we've already chosen the expert groups that are going to come and help us. I've already hired our first grant writer. And so in the next few months, we plan to be accelerating our writing of grants and bring additional money to the city to fix our roads and to help our school system and to enhance the quality of life in so many ways for our residents. And so, yes, we are bringing that back to the city. And that is through the initiative we had and getting this grant. And I more than anyone want to stop having to pay Oakland County or anybody else administration fees and keep that money for ourselves. So we're going to be rebuilding that department and not only for the CDBG money to get that grant funding back in the city of Pontiac, but for all the other grant opportunities that are available and that are out there. We're going to be very aggressive and bringing those kind of resources to the city again.
So this question is coming from Edward in District 1. It says, you and the City Council had 3 years to determine if the current location of the youth center was going to be permanent or not. At some point, you had to know it wasn't the solution, or you would have purchased it. Why wasn't an alternative plan put in place so when the lease ran out, our children would have a community center?
Yes. Well, our children are going to have a community center. That's my dedication to them. Uh, it doesn't necessarily have to be at 825 Gulf Drive. All right. But when we originally leased that property, the council was happy with that property, uh, and um, and actually set aside the money in our budget to purchase it. But for whatever reason, different people wanted it to be different places, and so there wasn't a vote on the council. We have to have four votes, four people to decide, and so even though the money was set aside, there weren't the four votes to keep that particular place, and that vote just happened uh, like 3 weeks ago or so. So, even after the millage was passed, we didn't have a dedicated center at the time. We were able to house the facilities and uh, the activities in a couple other different facilities. And in addition to the fact that we have the parks and the um, other kinds of outdoor activities that we have available during the summer, particularly for the sports activities. And now, as I said, we have the opportunity of the United Shore, uh, the sports complex that they're going to build, that they have invited us to come and see where there's overlap. And that's going to be an amazing, amazing complex that's going to be available to not only our youth as part of our youth program, but also to our citizens as a whole. So that's one of the things we were able to open up, and I'm very happy that we were able to bring United Shore to town as I've been mayor, and that they have grown and now are offering this opportunity to us. So tomorrow evening, as a matter of fact, we do have a group of advocates who believe, as I do, that we want to have youth activities and enrichment for all of our youth in Pontiac. And they're going to be meeting to talk about a site selection. So we have been thinking about that for a while, and we have the programming and have been working with various partners and other entities to see if we identify another central site or if we have several satellite sites. And that's one of the things this larger group is going to be involved in. I invite other candidates who are running for office to come and be a part of that discussion. As you're running for office, this is one of the things that is important to this community. So we'd like to hear what you have to say, just as you're questioning us in these interviews. I think people would like to hear what they have as a solution, what input they have for these youth and recreation activities for the youth of Pontiac.
Okay, look, we have a question from Michael Goodman. How would you solve the city's affordable housing crisis without opening the door to gentrification?
Okay. So that is a very pivotal and very insightful question, because as I've said often, as I spoke to this and various groups, is that one person's economic development is another person's gentrification, and so there's not one solution for that, but we're happy for the fact that we are bringing more housing of all categories to the city of Pontiac. We have had a number of new housing uh, opportunities coming to the city. Um, One of the new ones I'll just cite is the Hamilton, which is a very affordable housing um, property that was just built, 54 different units just near to our downtown. Um, we have had more housing starts uh, in the last 4 years in the city of Pontiac than we had in the last 20 years before I became mayor. So we're happy we were able to invite housing. Not only that, but we have been part of a number of the existing multifamily housing uh, that we've been a part of making sure they got refinanced so that they could improve that housing stock and bring up the quality of housing, the opportunities that are available. So that is something we've kept our eye on as we have um, taken down a lot of the blighted properties in Pontiac and restored the beauty to some of our neighborhoods that for years had disgraceful, boarded up, rat infested homes. That was the first thing I wanted to clean up for our neighborhoods, for the safety and for the pride and beautification of our neighborhoods. And so we have vacant lots. And so we're inviting in now developers to use those vacant lots to build more houses of not only affordable but of all ranks because we want people to come to Pontiac and have more opportunities to have um, uh, good housing in the city of Pontiac. So that's very much the part of building a community. And as we've done that, we've made sure that we had a great variety of housing projects. There's another one called Woodcrest Commons that the city has approved and has encouraged to move along. That's going to be some of the first large duplex houses that will be coming to Pontiac. And I can cite a number of other projects that come on to not only build new housing, but also to restore and refurbish housing that's older and needed to be stabilized. So that's going on continuously, and I'm happy for the amount of growth in housing we've had so that we're not pricing people out of their homes, but we're offering them better opportunities for dollars that are affordable.
The question we have from Darcy M says, Chandler Street has become a dumping ground. No one in the city is addressing this issue. How do you plan on handling this?
Tell me the name of the street again.
Chandler.
Chandler. Okay. So no street should be a dumping street. You know, that has been a culture that is that we want to break in Pontiac. It's not going to be something we can do overnight. All right. But one of the things that we have done is as we've eliminated blighted structures and dangerous homes, now we're turning our attention. And in fact, we do have an anti dumping campaign in the city of Pontiac. So dumping in all the various places. As people report these, or as our code enforcement officers find blighted properties, we do now have a blight court. So instead of waiting to give tickets over several weeks, the code enforcement officers can take them to the blight court. And if the owner of the property does not clean the property, then we can have the city clean it up and then ticket the owner and put a lien on the property. So I want a city to be beautiful, and dumping has been a long time hazard to our city. I must say that we do believe that a good deal of this dumping is coming from people who are not residents of the Pontiac. In several instances, we've actually done that, but we want to have the citizens help us. If you spot that, if you have it, let us know. And the ones that are the most egregious, it shouldn't wait for ticketing or for the blight court. That I have a policy now I call enhanced nuisance abatement. And if there's a property that has dumping that shouldn't wait for blight court, then I go ahead and sign off and allow my code enforcement officers to go ahead and get the contractors to go ahead and clean up that site. And in the last week, I've done at least three. So we hope that the numbers will decrease as we get penalties for that for people, particular owners who allow dumping, or for landlords who allow dumping when they if they evict tenants. That's just not acceptable in our community. And so that's something that we're attacking with vigilance. If there's something on Chandler Street, then if you report it, we'll make sure that we report it to our code enforcement officers. This is going to happen tomorrow. And so we will begin to address it and make sure that we are looking at that. So there is every week, we're identifying those sites as we have code enforcement officers go over the town. And it's been my rule that if they're bad enough, we will go ahead and have the city pay for it and just go back later and put a lien on the property from the neglectful owner.
Okay, well, Mayor, at this time, we give you an opportunity to have your closing remarks. Let the people know why they should vote for you.
I would like people to vote for me because I'm a known quantity. I'm not promising that people know that I have delivered. Um, and I think we have done it in a way that I've always kept the needs of the citizens in mind first. Some people come because they need a job or they need the fame. I didn't need that. I actually sacrificed to come and do this service to the citizens of Pontiac because I love the city. It's been good to me. Before I was a mayor, I was an eye doctor, and many of the people that I'm now serve as mayor, I had done their eye surgery or cure their children's business. So to me, I want to live in a community that I have pride in, and I've been proud to continue to build upon that. So from where we are, or where we were, to where we are, we've come light years for those who remember uh, what we had restored Pontiac, and I want to continue that progress. We've got a lot of things now that are in a precarious stage of developing. All the new housing we're bringing in, the concepts for the talked about the Phoenix Center. That was something that took a while to restore to the citizens, but we've done that and we've won that for the citizens of Pontiac. And there's still a lot of things yet to come. When I signed the papers for the citizens with the Phoenix Center, I also signed a memorandum of understanding in which there were some other benefits to the citizens that I wanted to be brought. So, in so many ways, that we have to continue to progress. They talk about the heydays of Pontiac being the days when we had 8 automobile plants. Well, I like to think of the fact that Pontiac has many assets, and one of the assets is the people who live here, the people who want to live in a place that's safe, secure, beautiful, has attributes, has services. I want to live there too. I've got a commitment to Pontiac. I've got a commitment to the citizens. I've delivered with integrity. I think I made the city citizens prouder. They hold their head up now because Pontiac is a recognizable city that's on the move. We have more beautiful neighborhoods. People are trying to move into our city. Businesses are coming in droves. I brought in 10,000 jobs just in the last 3 years. And so we have partnered with so many groups now that want to add additional resources to our citizens. And that is the trust I think I have brought to the citizens of Pontiac. And in a collaborative effort, want to continue to reach out to the council members that you elect, because you do elect and choose who sits on council. But I want to continue to offer those opportunities and continue to build our city for the benefit of all of us who are Pontiacers. And as Sean Preston says, Yacktown don't back down. And so we're not going to back down. We're going to continue to grow together. And I'm proud that the citizens will elect me, and I hope they will today. I ask for your vote. I ask for your support to continue the progress. And I thank you for having this podcast tonight to allow me touched on a lot of different things in the city that are going on. So I think we have a good view for people who weren't aware that some of the progress we made and some of the things that have changed under my term as mayor, that you can look back and see where we are now is certainly far better, as everybody can see from where we were when I took office. And I want to continue to serve in that manner.
Well, Mayor
Thank you for the
Waterman,
opportunity.
we want to thank you for joining us on this evening for this Q&A. We also want to thank the citizens of Pontiac for tuning in and sending in your questions. Your voice was heard this week. We also want to let you know that you can go back and review all of the different Q&A sessions that we have had on the Pontiac United Facebook page and also on the Pontiac United YouTube page. Please follow Pontiac United so that you can have updates on everything that we are trying to do to bring awareness to the city and to the citizens of Pontiac. We also want to thank DeMar for helping us out this week as a moderator, and all of the other candidates who came on and took their time out to have a Q&A session with us.
Yep, and I just thank Pontiac United for opening up their platform, and big shout out to F&G Media hosting this thing and doing it with such style and grace. So we appreciate Asante Lucas of F&G Media.
And that's our program for tonight. Stay tuned for more from Pontiac United. Have a good night.
So that's a wrap, as they say. Okay. All right. Did we get through all the questions, or
No, we had a lot more questions. That's why I was trying to just tell you to cut your answers down a little, because we had a lot. They were just coming in, but we weren't able to ask all of them. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something similar after August, just so that the citizens can kind of know who's in office, and who their mayor candidates
Well,
are.
that's a good thing to do, because I think the citizens elect people to do a job for them, and they need to know what's being done in their name and with their taxpayer dollars. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Post-COVID, a lot of people have been sheltered and just beginning to come out and seeing what's happening in the community and getting back to real life again. So we're happy for that as well. But thank you for the service you provide in getting this information out.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, and everybody have a good night.
Good night.
You
Take
too.
care now. Bye-bye.